Welcome to another episode of Contemplative Living. Yeah, today we're going to try something a little different. Cindy recommended that we start having a contest. So, we're going to give away one of my books, A Voice as Old as Time, which is about contemplations for spiritual transformation. And at the end of this episode, you'll find out how to win this book, okay? And we'll even sign it for you.
At the end of the show, I'll tell you how we'll do it. We're going to run a little contest, all right? And then next week I'll announce the winner, and you'll win a copy of Voice as Old as Time, and I can sign it and ship it out to you. All right. So that's so let's hang on to that. We'll come back to that later. So this week it was kind of interesting. There was definitely a huge theme, and I'm sure you'll pick it up as we go along. But the first uh, the first meme that we're having. Let me get rid of this because that's right in the middle. um, and if you're interested, you can join me. I'll put the link up in a little bit. But so the first meme we're going to go over today is recognizing the simplicity at the core of life. You know, when we live in simplicity, it allows all the clutter in life to kind of like fall away. It doesn't, we don't get so caught up when we just try to live simplicity. But what is that? I mean, we have to recognize, does what we're striving for have value? You know, are we just are we looking for the materialistic things in life? Are we what are we striving for? Or are we striving more for the core values of life, like inner peace and to live in love? And then, so take a look. We need to periodically, it's not a bad thing to take a look at how we're living our life and what are we striving for? What is it that we're looking for? And and then, and a key way to evaluate this is to look at, are you struggling or are you striving? Struggling means that everything that you're trying to strive for, or you're trying to reach to, if there's obstacles that are constantly in our way, it becomes a struggle in order to move forward. And that's not living simply, to have all of that drama rising up and just creating chaos in our life. So are you struggling or are you striving? And in striving, we tend to be, more at peace, and we're moving along at a pace that the universe sets for us. Now, sometimes the universe can set a pretty hectic pace. Gosh knows. I know when I speak to spirit, I ask spirit to use me gently because I really don't want to be moving at that rapid pace I used to when I was younger. I'd much rather move at a much more steady and consistent pace. So, you know, I think it's time right now, especially with all the chaos that's going on around us and all the suffering that's going on in the world. It's good for us to evaluate our place, where we are, and recognize that simplicity is at the core of life. So I would recommend that you just take some quiet time. This show's all about contemplative living. So take some quiet time and take a look at are you striving or are you struggling? Because that's a key to knowing if you're living within that simplicity. Now, the next one is stop pursuing the past. When we live in the past, it's a trap. It's such a trap. And so if you live in the present and you look around, right now the world is showing us big time what less looks like. We're all being forced to live in a smaller footprint. We're all being asked to contain our life a little bit so that the world can be a healthier place. And it's amazing some of the things that we're able to do. We're still able to help each other, help fellow man. We're able to be supportive and come together in different ways, but by living presently. And because the past is the past, and the world is showing us that we can live with less. And a lot of near death experiencers recognize this. When they come back from their experience, they lose that drive for materialism quite a bit. Now, I know that that's not the best for our economy, of course. We all need to participate in living, but things are changing, things are shifting, and this is that time that we've all known is coming, that we're shifting our priorities. And the key to this meme is to live modestly. And what does that mean? It means that we don't need the biggest, the best, the fastest, all of that. We can live with what we have as long as we keep ourselves. Remember the meme before? Are we suffering or are we striving? And are we living in simplicity? So if we live modestly and in simplicity, we're distilling down all of that complex nature of life into one step at a time. And that's kind of what this image shows, is a man moving forward one step at a time. And he's not looking at the past, he's moving forward. These are the things that that help us to have that more peaceful life, is to let go of the past. And the future is going to unfold. The future is going to unfold, and it's going to reveal itself to us. And if we're doing the best we can in this moment, then we really, we don't have to be too concerned about the future, but we do, of course, we always want to take all the precautions we can to be safe and everything for the best future that we can possibly have. Now, the next meme shows us to remain rooted in your vision. Remain rooted in your vision of change as a welcome source of creativity and renewal. Now, we just said that, we're in a period of shift and change. When we come out of this time of sequestering, we're going to have a different world that we're living in. And so to remain rooted in our vision of what the change should look like for us, what's healthy for us, what's going to help us to flourish, that is a welcome source of our creativity and our renewal, because we're constantly renewing ourselves. We're constantly growing, and we're constantly evolving. That's a lot of what the spiritual path and contemplative living is all about, is to renew ourselves with a more vibrant and more thriving way of living, and to live in peace with everything and in our environment and everything. So keeping our roots underneath us helps us. So we've all heard, the analogy where, if you're rooted, if you have strong roots, when the wind blows, you can bend with the wind and not break, but you're still holding firm to your core. Well, that's what it's really all about, right? To keep that, and to keep our root, to keep our sense of center. But but allow the chaos. I was once sitting at the feet of a Rinpoche, and he asked me, what's your question? And it's like, well, sometimes I feel like I'm a pillar in the in and the world is just swirling around me, and it's this giant vortex, and it's just swirling around me, and I just don't know what to do. And the Rinpoche says to me, be the pillar. Just be yourself. Stay rooted in who you are, and allow the chaos to swirl around you so that you can watch and with a clear vision and participate in the world, but be the pillar, be the root, be rooted in your vision of change. I really feel that that's a very important lesson. It was huge for me. It was really huge for me. So the next one is kind of it's an Edgar Casey type of thought. He speaks a lot about our ideals. Now, Edgar Casey thinks of ideals as our guiding star, our North Star. It's not something that we can reach out and touch. It's not something that we're probably going to attain in life, but it's something that we set for ourselves. Now, after my near-death experience, my ideals totally shifted. Believe me, I was a very self-centered individual beforehand. After my near-death experience, my ideals became acceptance of myself, tolerance of others and my life situations, and then trying to live within my truth. So that became my ideal. Now, it wasn't something that I could just do immediately, because we're all human, and when we get caught up with the circumstances of life and that sort of thing. But that was my greatest inspiration. So our ideals are our greatest inspiration, lifting us to do things that are desperately needed. And so by following your ideals, and for me, it was acceptance, tolerance, and truth. Some people may set their guiding star as living with peace within, or I want to live within love, that sort of thing. Well, those are things that we can be in that moment. We can be in that moment from time to time, but we can't. It's very hard for us living this physical life, being human with all the circumstances that are swirl around us, to be in that higher level of consciousness all the time. Okay. So, we have to allow ourselves to slip in and out of that higher level of consciousness because we're human. So, but to set that ideal and to come back to it as often as we can, just remember it, maybe create a mantra around it at first so that it really becomes, a new worldview for you. So that's your ideal, that's your guiding star, and you're going to use that to set your decisions, your choice points in life, to help guide you toward what it is that you want to achieve in life. So our ideals being our greatest inspiration is some of the keys to, especially in this time of shift and change. So now, there's so much suffering that goes on in the world right now. So this meme kind of illustrates when living in the illusion of darkness, the sage sees things as they really are and awakens. Now, all day long, all we hear about is coronavirus. That's all we hear. I mean, it's everywhere. It bombards us to the point where we feel like we're just we're living in this dark period, and we hear of all the suffering. I mean, our family has suffered some loss as a result of this virus, and we have friends that have gone, have suffered through the virus and are on the recovery road. But So it feels very heavy. It feels very dark. It feels very dangerous at times. But to see clearly, the sage sees things as they really are. So that's kind of, I talked about some of my ideals about acceptance, accepting who we are, but also accepting that this is the circumstances, this is the situation that we're living in right now, and to see it clearly, to try to understand it, because with understanding comes the ability to overcome it. And also, while seeing it clearly, we internally begin to awaken to the broader picture. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is to live with a clear understanding so that we don't make those missteps in life. Those missteps are the ones that cause us to go down the wrong path a lot of times, when we're not listening to our guidance, when we're not centered. And this darkness, a lot of times, can pull us away from our own center. So you need to look at it when you feel like you're in that dark place. You need to look at it to be able to see it clearly and to understand it and to overcome it. Now, this one takes it another step further. Like I said, this week really was a quite a theme in the memes. So this one, we often don't realize how much suffering we have adapted to, or tuned out the constant background of stress around us. So here we have an image of someone that's totally upside down, but trying to maintain their peace, but they don't realize that they're upside down. They don't realize how much they've absorbed, how much energy that they've absorbed from this darkness, from this suffering that's going on in the world around us. Many of us, especially that are empathic, we take in some of this a lot of times, and we have to learn how to discern what is ours and what isn't our energy. And so a lot of this suffering, it's very hard right now for people that are empathic to see the suffering that's going on. It reminds me of, I may show my age here a little bit, but back in the Vietnam War, every day and I had my draft card and I was a low number and I was sweating it out. And every day they would show the body counts on the news. Every day it was like it was in our face all the time. And it was a dark place for me at that time, that, okay, here we go. Are we going to go to Nam? And and right now we're kind of in another era where it feels like the same kind of energy, where we're just constantly being bombarded by these numbers, and by the enormity of a global pandemic. I mean, you think about it, it's global. So it's constant. This energy is wrapped around the earth right now. And we can so easily get caught up with that suffering and that constant background of stress and suffering that's all around us. It gets absorbed into us, and we don't even realize how much we're carrying on our own shoulders and how it's flipping us upside down. And so to recognize that, is huge. To allow yourself to let go of what you're holding on to, because it's not going to do you any good. In fact, we all know that the more stress that we take on, the more that we absorb this energy of what they're projecting on us, that it causes disease or disrupts our own physical being. So we need to be aware. Remember the one before, where we want to be aware, but we also want to let go and be ourself, and try not to absorb so much of what is happening around us. So that can, you know, so that was kind of heavy, so this whole week, it's kind of heavy. It's talking about how to live in these stressful times. Well, how do we live in these stressful times? I believe in meditation. That's why I wrote a book about contemplative living, and I call, the voice as old as time, um, because meditation is a way to quiet ourselves to a point where our awareness expands, and we can feel that universal love that the universe carries for us, that our higher spirit is made of. So each day that we spend time in the inner quiet of meditation, each day that we spend time in the inner quiet of meditation, our awareness expands and awakens us to love, to that greater love, that higher love, the higher consciousness love. This is a core tenet in most beliefs and most traditions. Meditation, and I know there are many people out there say, "Oh, I can't meditate; it's so difficult." But to just spend a few moments each day in quiet. It will evolve. It does take, some discipline and some practice, but I really encourage people to try to meditate. Now, contemplative meditation is a little more intense, but just to take those moments of stillness and to just quiet your mind and to step away from the chaos of the world. That's what we've been talking about this morning, is so to step away from that and to find yourself, find that quiet part of you. Now you're not going to be, in meditation, quiet the mind and all of that, but that doesn't happen right away. And you just have to realize that thoughts are going to come in, they're going to be transitory, they're going to come and go, and just allow that to happen, allow it to flow away. And eventually you will find that quiet. But even spending a couple minutes of that, just letting go of thoughts, will strengthen your immune system, will buoy you up with energy, positive energy, and help you. You'll find that you feel so much better in the course of the day. And the more that you do that, for me, it's not a I want to, it's a I got to. I got to do this every day because it helps me to maintain my sense of being. With all the health problems and oops, with all the health problems and things that I've gone through in life, I find meditation is that's part of my root. We're talking about our roots. That's part of my core. That's the pillar that is me. That is the pillar that is I. Is by doing my practice, my spiritual practice, I grow, and it strengthens me, and it helps me to maintain in these times of troubling thoughts and everything that's bombarding us on a regular basis. So I did promise at the end that I would tell you how to get a copy of our book, A Voice as Old as Time. And this book's out of print right now, but you can still get it on Amazon. You can buy new copies on Amazon from other sailors. In fact, Cindy and I actually have a little bookstore on Amazon called Spiritual Simplicity. And so if you go into the new books, you can purchase this book and you can purchase it from us by buying from the Spiritual Simplicity retailer on the store. So how do I get a free copy of this? Well, the contest is simple. All I'm asking is for you to share this episode. And I'm going to look at all and I'm going to take everybody, kind of throw them in a hat and pull out a name, and they will be the winner of this book. So, so I hope you'll share this episode of Contemplative Living, and I want to thank you for listening and coming all the way to the end of it. And this one's been a little longer. It's been 25 minutes. So thank you, and Namaste. Have a great week coming up.